Good morning, everyone. Miles and I are here today to talk to you about supporting Williams pipeline operation and maintenance with a tool that we call GeoMobile. So we're going to go through our Williams GIS group vision and mission statements, regulatory requirements, identifying the problem. We're going to talk about the tool itself and the future vision going forward. So at Williams, the GIS group, our vision is to actively connect people to information through dynamic GIS solutions, and our GeoMobile tool fits right into that perfectly. Our mission statement: cultivate effective relationships, ensure accurate, timely data, enable efficient business processes, promote GIS as a functional business information system, dynamically address business needs and exceed expectations, encourage innovation, empower our customers, and continuously improve and grow in everything that we do. So regulatory requirements. The regulatory body, determinations and relevant definitions. PHMSA, I'm sure most of you guys, all you guys know who PHMSA are. The determinations that drove this, the development of this tool, part of 192.5 class locations. It's a population and density study. It drives the regulatory requirements. So the increase in class increases the number of inspections, the timeliness of the inspections, and the relevant pipeline definitions. So pipeline means all parts of the physical facility through which the gas moves, including the pipe, valves, other appurtenances attached to the pipe, compressor units, metering stations, regulator stations, delivery stations, fabricated assemblies. So basically everything from flange to flange, bolt to nut, well to compressor facility. The gathering line is a pipeline that transports the gas from a current production facility to a transmission line or main, and then a transmission line is a pipeline other than a gathering line, basically, the FERC regulated bigger transmission lines. So the requirements around the development of this tool are PHMSA's Part 192-705 patrolling and 706 leak surveys. Each operator shall have a patrol program to observe surface conditions on and adjacent to the right-of-way. The frequency of the patrols is determined by the size of the line, operating pressure, class, terrain, weather. Part 192-743, pressure limiting and regulating stations, must be determined at intervals not exceeding 15 months, but at least once each calendar year by testing the devices in place. And 192-745, valve maintenance. Each valve that might be required during any emergency must be inspected and partially operated at the same time, not exceeding 15 months, but at least once each year. So, identifying the problem. The use of spreadsheets to collect and store this data at Williams. They're spreadsheets, Excel, they're difficult to manage, difficult to control. In one single operating area, there could be 7 or 8 different forms. We have 7 or 8 different operating areas, so that's a lot of forms to deal with. Difficult to centralize in a database, opens us up for audit exposure. Lesser quality data. Did we receive all the forms back that we provided? Are the forms complete? Is the data accurate? Time lost collecting and QCing the forms. So if we get all the forms back, how do we know that the data is accurate anyways? Who's doing that QC? Could be the operations admin, could be the operations field tech, could be a supervisor, could be us. There was no one person doing that QC work. And geographical awareness related to the location. Again, are they all there? Did they get all collected? Did they get all inspected? We just have no way of knowing. So we developed a tool that we call GeoMobile. Our manager came up with that. It's a legacy access mobile app that's downloaded via mobile iron to iOS devices, iPhone or iPad. It's a framework with multiple viewers. So the following mobile forms that we currently have in GeoMobile that we're utilizing now. Asset capture, asset inspection, pipeline patrol and leak survey, and meter collection. And there's a screenshot of what it kind of looks like.
Okay, with that I'll take over. Essentially GMO, we kind of threw out a lot of the regulatory driving factors around this application. Essentially it's multifaceted. We've made it scalable to try to serve several needs. So we're working on solutions to help streamline the workflow and accountability for class location and pipeline patrol and leak surveys and asset capture, which we mentioned. That's kind of one of our driving products for getting on board with Maximo. And then what I'm really going to focus on mostly in this is our asset inspection. But first, so why GeoMobile? Essentially, GeoMobile is a framework, an application framework provided for us by Latitude Geographics with GeoCortex, which is very familiar. We have several benefits of choosing this, and we're just going to go over some of these. So the first one is just really familiar. So we have, on a daily basis, we have several web map viewers utilizing GeoCortex, the GeoCortex framework. I'm sure that a lot of you guys are familiar with that. And so, since we have the web maps, on a daily basis, we probably get hundreds of hits of business users looking at our web maps, looking at our data, trying to meet their everyday needs for what they're looking for, essentially. So it's a very familiar platform on the web map front, and then the idea of having it in a mobile app adds more value to it, because the operators or whoever looking at this mobile app, they can kind of use their prior knowledge, their prior familiarity with the web map and figure out, okay, this is the tool that we need to do for this. And so it was just a really easy proponent for using GeoCortex for a mobile framework. We also had some budgeting already in place from a previous relationship. We've been using GeoCortex for several years now. And so by having that budgeting already in place, and it just made sense to put it somewhere, and why not in a mobile solution. So also the drive for this had, I would say, two main requirements, and this was one of them, just being able to go into offline editing. So essentially, we needed, at the operator level, we needed this app to be able to sync data to the phone, to the mobile device, go offline, meaning go in a disconnected environment, because in our line of business, I mean, it's very common for us to have assets out in physical locations where there just isn't any connectivity or anything like that. So it just made a lot of sense. And so it was one of our major requirements for this app. And then they can go out to their asset, and through a few clicks, they can make their edits, or they can create new features, and they can go back online in a connected environment through our VPN, and essentially sync those edits back in real time. So maybe their foreman or supervisor or other business users can see that updated information, and improves accountability overall. Also, this is the second one, imagery. So it's all well and done if you can go out and collect data, but if the operators don't necessarily have something good to physically reference, it's just a blank screen, it's not going to be helpful. And that was one of the big benefits of using GeoMobile and working with Latitude, them working with us on this, is we were able to use some of our proprietary imagery that we went out and purchased, and that we kind of have a fairly regular updated cycle, and work with them to get it into a service that we could consume and essentially be able to cache that imagery down to the devices. And then finally, I think this is final, just the symbiotic relationship of working with Latitude. In this, we are able to benefit from having a customizable product from them, but also we were kind of piloting this mobile framework of theirs. So there's a lot of benefits there. So we got to help them develop their product even more. So with that, we're going to go into the viewer itself and just talk about some of the main stuff. So essentially, for the valves, the valve inspections, we have specific forms. Chris talked about how they were essentially Excel spreadsheets. And operations every year would go out, and after they were done inspecting and greasing their valves, they would go back to their truck or whatever and then physically fill out all the same information, tab after tab after tab, of all these valves every year, just to meet our O&M inspection requirements, which also met PHMSA and the regulatory requirements. So our goal was essentially to streamline our F-series forms in the form of, no pun intended, a phone app that they could use. And so that was the main goal. And one of our central GIS tenets in our mission statement was to be enablers, to enable our business users. So it was just really common. And this is kind of what you see. So in the first one, you get a look of what it kind of looks like in a connected environment. So they can view the imagery, they can see our pipeline data, they can see our valves. You see the red versus the black. The red, I guess you can kind of see it, not very well. But anyways, the red is essentially illustrating the more critical valves, the DOT critical valves, and then we have black for just some of the other valves. And then the next image is essentially the kind of example of what it looks down whenever you would select a feature. And they could physically go in and use drop-down lists based off of, I guess, predefined lists and domains for different things. So it could be manufacturer information for valves, or for instance, we got the inspection date, yes or no for critical valves, valve types if it's a ball, or just various things. The next one is just actually, that's not our inspection form, that's actually illustrating our leak survey, which we have in production. But that's just another picture. And essentially that's showing, the leak survey is essentially showing a means for operations to track, okay, what lines have we patrolled, and where are we finding leaks, and so that's that. And then moving forward, essentially with the valve, we're just going to kind of walk through the workflow. So the operator would go out, and maybe after he's already sort of inspected the valve, greased it and cleaned it and everything. Essentially, we've enabled it to capture QR codes. So in our maximum effort, we're trying to get QR tags on valves, so they would have more accountability that way. So we enabled our application to where you could scan for that feature code. And so you would go to scan the code, you'd take a picture of it on the valve, and then the next image would be, okay, you choose, is it a valve or a pig trap or PRV or whatever it is, in this case a valve, and then you would essentially get this where you could choose, okay, do I want to get the location of the valve via geolocation from the device, or do I want to click on the map? And with this image, I think it's really helpful because you can see how we have the cookie cutter image. So imagery takes up a lot of memory, and so one of the ways to reduce it, we cookie cuttered the image and then put it in tile packages, which reduced our overall amount of data we're caching down to our phones. And so that's what I want to highlight. But this is kind of what it would look like. They could kind of zoom in, zoom out. They could click or tap on the screen to essentially put the valve where they know it is. And that allows for, I guess, more accurate locating of valve, because sometimes those GPS units in the phones are not always accurate, so for the operator to have something to look at, that's really, really helpful. And then once you set the valve, this pops up, and they can go and, okay, the QR code is already populated, and maybe a few other fields already automatically populated based off of pre-existing information, and they fill in the necessary few things, maybe only fill in, update the inspection date, and they keep moving. And then they can choose a photo if they've already taken one, or if they want to take one of the physical valve picture, because operators, it's very common for them to take pictures of the valves or even whole valve sites and share that as a resource to help their foreman or whoever, or in the regulatory and auditing environments and stuff. So that's kind of the app in a nutshell, but in the future vision of this, we really want to keep going forward. We don't want to stop at just the valve inspections. We want to keep moving because mobility, frankly, is kind of, that's the big thing with GIS. How can we enable the end users with RGS most efficiently? And I think that's the mobility. But so we've got our other F-Series forms, again, big survey, maybe pig trap inspection forms, and we've also made it scalable by having it all in GIS, in that we're able to, because we have it already in a database through maybe some ETL job or something, we can give it back to them in a readily available form that they need more efficiently, while not compromising accountability and that stuff. So we get to streamline a lot more just with one application. So the one application and multiple viewers. So plan viewers, pig trap, closure inspections, pigging scheduler, PSVs, actuators, and then also looking at structure verification. So why it works. Essentially cost savings. We save a lot of money this way in not only building the app, but also leveraging it. So the operators spend less time filling out paperwork year after year of the same stuff. And there's less time in getting that data to the rest of the company. And it's easier to manage on our end too. We spend less time digging through the weeds, trying to figure out, okay, what happened to this? Why is this spreadsheet not right? So efficiencies, they can sync the data back through cloud, through VPN, and it's just automatic. It's updated in a matter of minutes, essentially, depending on their connectivity. But we don't have to wait until forms are completed every year for us to receive the data that we need. Also, just data integrity, it's easier to maintain, a lot easier to maintain. For us and for them, there's just less room for error, especially with the domains and those drop downs and stuff. It makes it a lot easier for them to, okay, what do I need? What does this field for? What do I need to put it? And a lot of them know what they need. It just makes it a little easier. Also, just accountability. Again, it just promotes more accountability of our assets as a company, so we can be more accountable and we can provide more of that to the regulatory agents and stuff, whether it's in audits or whatever. And it just promotes our overall safety. We know where the critical valves are. We can, by having those located and stuff, we can go through emergency action plans and figure, okay, well, if something happens here, we have a map that we can plan, okay, we need to shut off these valves, and be able to show that to people. And again, it's scalable, dedicated internal resources for generating business required forms. So we can take that data from our database and essentially provide it to them in a form more easily and readily available for them for what they're needing. So with that, I'm just going to end and say, are there any questions?